name is Carissa Lowe, and today I'm going to be talking about a new yarn store that I've opened, some dyeing, and lots of life that's happened, and look forward to reconnecting with all of you. Let's get started. Welcome to Sweet Mountain Crafts podcast number 14. Welcome to any new viewers. This is my first time podcasting in a number of months, so feel free to go back and look, but you're going to find that there's a big gap in time between this podcast and the previous. But thank you to any of you who are coming back to find me again. I know I've had a bit of time off here. I look forward to getting going again. We'll see. I can't guarantee that I'll get back to my every other week schedule, but possibly once a month is kind of what I'm going to shoot for initially, and then we'll go from there. I'm looking forward to catching up with you guys with everything that's been happening in my life. There's been a lot of change. So some of you have been following along with Instagram and possibly on Facebook as well, and seeing that, yes, indeed, I have purchased and now own a retail yarn store. So an actual physical brick and mortar store, which is Wyoming Yarn and Fiber. And this has been a labor of love to get this shop open. I'll insert some photos and possible video here as well. The shop that we purchased was actually previously an auto shop, so you can imagine the walls were greasy, there was soot on the ceiling and the heating, and there was just, it was ugly. It was dirty, it was messy, it was what an auto shop should be. It was very practical and functional as an auto shop, not as a yarn store. So our biggest endeavor over the last few months, since the end of March and the early part of April, has been to transform this auto shop into a space that could hold all kinds of yarn and fiber goodness. Thankfully, the third week of July, July 22nd, 2022, such a fun date to remember, was my opening day for Wyoming Yarn and Fiber. So I was able to open the shop. We had a small grand opening combined with the opening day and the opening weekend, I should say. And it was so much fun to get the shop finally opened and letting people come in and see the new store. I have an incredible community support here in Cody. I mean, we live in a northern cool climate with lots of long winter days. So yarn, fiber, all these projects are a huge part of many of these people's lives, especially through the winter months. So it's a great thing to have the new store open, to start developing community, starting to have classes and events and all kinds of stuff. It's just been a lot of fun. I love my new job. So with that said, I certainly have had a major life change. I had been a stay-at-home mom for 20 years, homeschooling my 4 kids. 2 of those children are now graduated and off doing their things. And I still have 2 at home, but they do online schooling at this point. So I'm available to them as needed, but I also am able to have time for myself to go and take on this new endeavor. So my shop hours are Tuesday through Saturday, which gives me time on Sunday. Monday is my weekend, and then I also have mornings and evenings with my family, certainly. So big changes for me. It's a whole new career shift, but it's something that's been in the works and been planned on for some time. So it's exciting to be at this point. Let's start with what I'm wearing. Today I'm wearing the Derecho tee. This is a pattern put out by Barocco for the Remix Light. That's the yarn that I used in this sweater. You can see it's a short sleeve tee, and I use the color patina. So it's a super comfy. The Remix is a recycled yarn, so there's a combination or a blend of nylon, linen, cotton, wool, possibly silk. I can't remember if silk's in there too, but anyway, it's a blend of fibers because it is a recycled yarn. I find that I really enjoyed working with it. It has kind of a unique texture. I can feel a little bit of itch with it, maybe. I'm not sure what fiber content that is in there that makes it feel just a little bit scratchy, but not bad. And I haven't properly blocked this, so I wonder if blocking, just the washing and blocking process might soften some of those fibers too. So I probably should do that. This was put on my shop model immediately. As soon as I got it done, I put it on display in the new store. So I honestly haven't worn this until just this weekend. And anyway, it was fun to get it done as a shop model. Or a shop sample. It has shown well and been a great piece to introduce to people as they're considering beginning sweater knitting or garment knitting, because it's a top down. It starts at the yoke, has some short rows at the yoke, but it's a top down raglan style tee. It's very, very simple. The sleeves are just a simple, you put them on hold, you pick up and do just a few rounds to finish them off. But there's some really cute shaping at the bottom of the tee, and with, again, some short rows and kind of a split cuff. And I really love the design. I think it will be one that I will probably repeat in another yarn at some point. I think that having put this on, and I apologize, I don't remember which size I did. I'd have to look back and see. If I do figure that out, I'll try to put that in my show notes. But I found that the size that I did, while I thought that it was going to work, and I did try it on a couple times, it feels a little bit big for me. I think if I'm going to do it again, I will probably size down from what I did previously. The arm side is just a little bit long. It feels, and I have a string there I need to cut, but it feels a little large around the arm side. I would like it just a little bit more snug there. And then I have plenty of ease in the top. And I think, again, I'd love to have it just a little bit more fitted. So, but it's super comfy as far as the overall design. It's probably quite similar to the ranunculus as far as the shaping or the type of knitting that it is, but it's very fun. And it'd be easy enough, even though the pattern doesn't suggest doing a longer sleeve option, it'd be easy enough to add that in if you were interested. So the derecho by Barocco, and the designer on this is Alison Green, I believe. So very fun project to get finished, and certainly, like I said, a fun project to have had in the shop over the last few weeks. Let's see, what other life stuff has been happening? My husband and I were able to get down to Phoenix to go visit our son. Our second oldest son is in Phoenix now, and we got a trip down to see him, which was fabulous. It was so good to see him and just see how he's doing. He moved down there in January, so from January to May, we hadn't had a chance to catch up with him other than just on the phone. And so it was good to go down and see him doing well and to get to experience a little bit of Phoenix. I really haven't spent time in Arizona, so what a fun way to get to know it. It's through the eyes of my son. So that was a great trip. I have some acquisitions from Arizona that I'll share here in just a bit. Another thing that we got to do this summer, we did our annual family camping trip, so that was great. The shop had just opened, but thankfully I have an employee that was willing to cover for me so that I could go camping with my family and we could get our annual vacation outside. We love this family trip. It happens every year around the same time with family and friends, and it's just a good time. So glad to have been able to get that in. My gardening's been a little hectic this summer, as you can imagine. A lot of focus has been on the shop and in town. So my gardening's been a little bit all over the place, but still got some things planted. There's pumpkins and squash and lots of things coming in the garden. In the greenhouse, we have tomatoes going crazy and peppers and cucumbers and lots of produce right now. So here's the greenhouse currently. Everything's in production. Our lab, Petey, likes to eat the ripe tomatoes. So sometimes he gets the ones that have split. Right now you can see there's not a lot of red on the tomatoes just because I've already gone through and harvested all the ripe tomatoes. So there's just some of these that are just a little underripe that I'll leave for a little longer. But this bunch over here, this is kind of fun. This is all peppers. All different kinds of peppers. Look at those dark purple and red and orange. They're just all fun. Most of them are jalapeno pepper of some sort. And then over here on this side I have yellow and green. Again, jalapenos. I'm not really sure what this is back here. It's really pretty. Almost looks like dill, maybe, but it doesn't really smell. Anyway, it's a pretty purple flower, whatever it may be. You can see that we didn't do a great job with staking our peppers this year, so they're kind of falling everywhere. That's okay. They're still producing nicely. So walk down here. Again, tomatoes, both sides. Tomatoes, tomatoes, tomatoes. Tomatoes. Not a lot, like I say. I've got a pile back here that I'd collected. My bowl got too full, so I had to go get another bowl. Here's some tomatoes that are about ready to be ripe enough. They're still just a little bit on the orange side. I'll leave them ripen just a little longer. There's some tomatoes down there. And then back here, I have cucumbers. Cucumbers everywhere. They go all the way up. Trellis. I have cucumbers up there. These cucumbers, we have found that if they get too large, they're just super bitter. So this guy down here probably is too big. Which, I mean, that's not surprising for cucumbers. That is a rather large cucumber. So that is kind of large and probably wouldn't be great eating anyway. But it's kind of hard to find them, honestly, in all of these vines. All these vines, it can be hard to track down where the cucumbers are. So sometimes they get big before we get to them. Over here we have all these yellow flowers are volunteer tomatillos. So we had an excellent tomatillo crop last year, and there were a lot of tomatillos that just fell off and self-seeded. So like that little guy right there, you can see that's the beginning of a tomatillo. For those of you that don't know, a tomatillo is used like in green salsa. It's looks like a green tomato when you take the covering off of it, but it's a lot firmer flesh, I guess, and it's a completely different taste, very mild taste. And then over here I have a bunch more peppers. Look at all the peppers. Again, didn't stake our peppers very well this year, but these are all cayennes. And then in here we have habaneros. Aren't they pretty? Oh, the habaneros are beautiful always. I love when the habaneros grow in the greenhouse. So it's a bit of a mess. That's a canna lily back there. Bit of a mess in here right now this time of year, but it's in high production, so I can't really complain about the way it looks because we get lots of produce. So now I'm going to show you a bit of my garden. Right there is my gate to come into the garden. You can see the path to get in and out is a little overgrown with raspberries on one side and pumpkins on the other. But it's okay. You can see right there on the fence I've got a pumpkin. I like to trellis my pumpkins up the fence when I pay attention before they get too big. But I just came out and picked this squash. I forget the name of this one. They can produce really, really large squash. I do know that, but I forget what they're called right now. I will have to find out. I don't see any more. Oh, there's another pumpkin. They're all over the place right now in here. Pumpkins grow far and wide. On the back there, we have our grapes, which my husband already harvested grapes and turned it into juice. So now I need to make some jelly. Probably tomorrow. Tomorrow or Monday I'll make some jelly. Still have lots of flowers, but I doubt that any of these would get to producing before the end of the season for us. Here's another squash. Fun, fun. I'm gonna set this guy down. Just kind of look around the rest of the garden with you. Our raspberries, the bushes are doing beautifully, but you can see I'm just now getting heads that are gonna produce berries. And being that we're already in September, it's very, very possible that they won't mature before it gets too cold. Here I have some more squash. I have some onion. They're not called scapes. Well, it's part of the scape, but anyway, that I can plant for next year. Let's see, what have we got? Here we go, back in here. These are yellow squash that I planted, again, a little bit late, but we'll see. We'll see what we get. And then my sunflowers. My sunflowers are gorgeous, but these are all volunteer, surprisingly. So they're so fun though. I'm thinking I need to do a cutting of some of these and just bring them into the house to enjoy them, because they're just so pretty right now. And I have lots of smaller heads, but like that one is so beautiful. And then I love them when they look like that one, right there. Isn't that guy just so pretty? And our bees love them. So, oh, and look at this one up here. Again, just beautiful. Oh my goodness. That's so pretty. I love that color. I love that deep rust. I love all sunflowers. I mean, they're just pretty regardless. But I really like when they get those rust tones in them. This one's already ready to seed out the head. I think the reason that we got so many volunteer sunflowers last year is because the birds like to come eat on them and they spread them around. So, and then at my feet, this is my very sad potato patch this year. I don't know, there may be potatoes. There was one area that got kind of dug up because a sunflower fell over, and there were potatoes. So even though it looks so sad, I'm gonna have to start digging into it and see if we've got some potatoes. Because I know that even when the plants don't do well, sometimes the roots are. And then my rhubarb, I transplanted the rhubarb this year. So they're just really small stalks this year. This one, I could probably harvest off of that. And I was gonna make pie for Labor Day dinner. So I might make a rhubarb pie with these small stalks. But they're really, really healthy. They're doing well. Just, like I said, I just transplanted them, so I haven't really harvested a lot of rhubarb yet this year. So that's my garden. It's a little bit wild this year. It's not as manicured as what we normally have, just because we've been so busy with the shop. But I'm happy for any produce and all the green. Isn't it so pretty? I love all the green. All right. So the other life, aside from yarn and business, has been good, just a little bit more trying to fit it in the cracks rather than it being the focal point. But at the same time, it's been good things happening on the side, as well as the business growing and getting started and all. A fun thing that I got to do this summer, I was requested by our local museum to come and teach the interns that come to the museum. So in the Buffalo Bill Center of the West, the super large museum here in Cody, Wyoming, it has an excellent collection. It really is like 5 museums in one. But the lead conservator of the museum brings in interns every summer to get an opportunity to get some hands-on experience, because most of the time these interns are looking for full-time positions at other museums to be able to work in conservation in some fashion. So I was asked to come and teach about dyeing and fiber, and just kind of a focus in the textile realm, because as these conservationists are working with, let's say, aged cloth or aged materials, and they're trying to make sure that they're handling them well, they need to understand to some extent where they may have come from, or what the background is on these fibers or the dyes, or how the cloth came to be made. So the fun thing for me was I got to teach dyeing. So we did indigo dyeing first. That was the first class that I taught. And then the following week, I taught a class on spinning, so focused more on fibers themselves, how the fibers act, and how cellulose fibers versus animal protein fibers work differently. So what I mean by that is cellulose fibers being all kinds of plant fibers, so cotton, linen, any kind of nettles is another common cellulose fiber in the yarn world. Hemp would be another one. Any plant-related fiber obviously acts and works differently than animal protein fibers. And animal protein fibers are anything in the obviously the wool category where it's a animal hair or fur. So wool, dog hair, possum, alpaca, llama, all those are external to the animal. But then there's also, when we think animal proteins, we're also thinking of silk or milk proteins, actually. There's different yarns and fibers that are made from all kinds of things. So we got to discuss that. I got to talk to the interns about that and talk about how they act differently, and then teach them how to spin. So it was an excellent opportunity for me to develop my teaching skills a little bit, but also to work with the museum and get to see that side of the museum. The final week that I taught, I got to show them my acid dyeing and what my business is primarily built off of. And then the fun thing was that by the end of the summer, once the store was open, they actually came into the shop and visited the shop so that they could support me and just be an encouragement to me with my new business. So it was a fabulous opportunity. I loved the whole endeavor. And even though I was in the throes of trying to get my shop up and running, I was so thankful that I took that time to do this great, just have this great experience with the museum. My next big endeavors are this fall. Always the fiber markets start coming up. And while I don't go to large fiber markets at this point in time, I just don't have the space in my schedule to put that in. I try to hit a couple of the local ones for sure. So this last weekend, I got the opportunity to be in Bozeman, Montana for the fiber market at Styx. That was an excellent market to go to. I was there last year. It's just fun to connect. There's some really amazing fiber people that I enjoy connecting with when I go to the fiber market. And a lot of people that other independent dyers or ranchers that have sheep themselves, or other people that are just involved in the yarn industry in some fashion. So it's really fun for me to make those connections. It's also fun to meet customers and kind of just spread Sweet Mountain Crafts around Montana a little bit more and around the West. My next fiber market will be in Riverton, Wyoming, coming up in October. So that'll be another fun one to connect with. Again, just fiber people. So it's always fun to go to these events and be able to just visit about the things that we have such a great passion for. So I'm looking forward to that event in October. Woohoo! I made it. So aside from making a yarn store and getting that up and running, I have had time to just knit or crochet a little bit in the evenings, which is my downtime when I just finally need to take a pause from the busyness of the day. And while I haven't been too ambitious with any large projects, I have been putting in some time on a few projects here and there. And certainly with the length of time between the last podcast to this one, I have a number of projects that have just kind of built up. So let's kind of see some of the stuff that I've been doing. First of all, I have this pair of socks. This is a DK weight pair of socks. The yarn was dyed by the Woolly Cabin, and this is her crayons colorway. The contrast color toes and cuffs is a DK weight that I had done, this golden color that was just some leftover from a dye job that I had done. But I love the color of these socks. They just turned out super cute. Because they're a DK weight, they're super squishy and fun. And I just did a simple ribbed pattern. I can't say that I have, there's no pattern in particular that I used for this. I just used my standard sock knitting pattern that I use for my own socks. And then I just did a rib throughout. So on the top of the foot and then going up the leg. It was a fun project to do, and like I said, the yarn just made me happy, so it was a super fun knit. My next finished object is another pair of socks. This is an opal yarn. I am not going to remember the color number at the moment, or name, but it's just some that I had in stash for quite a while. This pair of socks, it's always fun to knit these because of the self-striping aspect of the yarn itself. It does work for you kind of, so I just did a very vanilla sock with this. A very basic sock. Again, just my own pattern, just my easy go-to sock. And Really enjoyed this project just because, like I said, I'd had this yarn in stash for a while, so it was a good opportunity to get it knit up. I will admit that I have not finished weaving in the ends, but it hasn't been sock weather, so it's hard to get excited about weaving in ends when I know that these aren't going to even be worn yet, even if I do throw them in my sock drawer. So hopefully I'll get those ends woven in and they'll end up in my sock drawer here in the next week or so, and then as the days get cooler, I'll get an opportunity to wear them. But I love making my socks match, so you can see here that I'm quite matchy-matchy with my stripes. It's an important thing for me. I don't know. I know it's not super important in the grand scheme of things, because the socks go into shoes and people rarely see them if they're under pant legs and in shoes. But it makes me happy when I can get the stripes to match up nicely. So I have plenty of this yarn left because, amazingly, anytime when I work with 100 grams, my foot, I'm a negative ease sock knitter. I really like my socks very fitted. And even though I have a size 9.5 or 10 foot, a lady's size 9.5 or 10, I find that my socks, I often still, out of a 100-gram ball, have plenty of yarn. So I'll probably still be able to make a pair of shorties or something with the remaining yarn from this ball. And then my last pair of socks is, again, just a vanilla sock. I did a kind of a fun where I did a 3x3 pattern, interrupted rib, I guess is what it would end up being, but it was 3 knit, 3 purl, just to create this fun texture. Again, not a specific pattern, just me kind of playing with the stitches as I went. But the yarn is called Auto Shop to a Yarn Store. So this is a hand dyed by me set with the coordinating heel, toe, and cuff, and it was just a fun set to dye with the new shop inspiring the colors. I'll pop up a photo of the yarn here. This set just went out to my Patreons or is sold in store. I don't sell this online at this point in time, but it makes for a very fun, kind of bright, but still just, I don't know, subtle brightness, I guess is the best way to put it, set. So I love how this turned out. I'm looking forward to wearing these socks for sure this fall and winter. One more finished object that I want to show you today is actually still in yarn form, but this was kind of a fun project. At one point this summer, I had a lot of dandelions in the yard, and I've never done dandelion dyeing. So I had this one undyed skein. This was just a natural colored skein of 100% merino. It's a single ply, and this comes from, let's see, the yarn is from Kramer. So it was just, like I say, an undyed skein of yarn, and I wanted to play with some natural dyes. So I took the time to pick some dandelions and throw them into one of my trays, and then heated them up. Added some mordant. Let's see, I used alum for the mordant for this dye, and I really like, it's just a super soft, subtle yellow color. So like really almost more creamy than yellow, but it turned out really pretty. So I have some ideas of what I may do with this, combining it with some other yarns for a project, but I'm not totally decided just yet, so we'll wait and see. But that was a fun thing to do, and I'm calling it a finished object just because the dyeing was the important part with this process. I will later on hopefully get this into a project of some sort and have it more finished later for you all. So that is all of my finished objects. As I said, my whole focus has been the shop, so I don't have any other large projects to share at this time, but that's okay. I'm still working on lots of projects, and at any moment have, so many of them going. So let's jump right into my works in progress. Right now, I have begun working on crocheting this shawl. This is actually a yarn that I acquired on my trip to Arizona. So let me get the band out for it. Make sure I identify it right. I was able to go shopping at Tempe Yarn Store in Arizona, and they dye yarns specifically in-house for that shop. which was fun to see because that's what I'm doing at Wyoming Yarn and Fiber as well, where Sweet Mountain Crafts is an in-store yarn dyer for the shop. But this is Dyalicious, and the colorway is Mogollon Rim 630. I think the Mogollon Rim is a location there near Tempe. And then the 630 is the number of yards that are in this one hank of yarn that is now caked up. So you can see it is a lot. I mean, look how big this ball still is. And I've already crocheted quite a bit. So it's a lot of yarn. But isn't it fun where they did this big space dye, like a kind of like a reverse color burst in a way, where it's just this little bits of color. So I'm knitting, let's see if I even have the name. Yes. No. Oh no. I have the designer. The designer is Holly Miller. I'm going to have to search out the name, and I will put it on here when I do. But I'm working on a fun crochet shawl that's a V shape. I really like this shape of shawl, and actually I'm working on my own design with a similar shape. But really just wanted to work this yarn up. I think it's a fun fall color. So we'll see how far I can get with this, but I'm enjoying the process when I get an opportunity to sit and crochet. Another crochet project I decided to get started on was actually another shop sample. You guys will probably start hearing that to some extent on occasion that I'm working on shop samples. This is using Universal Yarns Clean Cotton Multi. So Clean Cotton is actually just a small, this is similar to Lily's Sugar and Cream, or what used to be Peaches and Cream, just a very basic unmercerized cotton yarn, typically used for dishcloths, pot holders, those kinds of things. But I am working on the Lucy Tote, designed by, or put out by Universal Yarn. And you can see I have the bag pretty much done, the bag itself. I'm just working on now the handles. So I'm coming up the side here, and then I'll be going across the top, and then on this side, completing this section, and then there will be handles that come across. So this was a project that I took with me when we went camping. It was a great opportunity to do something fairly simple and straightforward. But once we got home from camping, it's been set aside. I need to kind of pick it up and get that finished so that I can get it in the shop. Next, I have another sock going. A pair of socks, I should say. This is on Universal Yarns Bamboo Pop Sock. And when I first saw this yarn, I didn't think of it as being a sock type yarn, like not what I would normally choose for socks. I do a lot of superwash merino socks with a nylon blend of some sort. So I don't tend to think of bamboo being my go-to sock yarn, or sock fiber, maybe I should say. But then I saw someone, they had a sample knit up of the sock, and it feels so nice that I was like, oh yeah, now I need to make myself a pair of socks out of that bamboo pop. So I have this, let's see, do they have a color name? This is called Strawberry. And so I'm working on a pair of socks with this yarn. I am working on a US size 0 for this yarn. I find that it's just enough of a finer fingering weight. I typically knit my socks on a US size 1, but for this pair I decided to go down a needle size, and I'm really liking the fabric that it's making. So I think it was a good choice to go down a needle size for this pair of socks. It does, however, mean that because I'm on a US size 1 and the thickness of the yarn, they're taking a little bit longer than some socks would take, but I'm enjoying the process, and I think I'll especially enjoy the finished product with this pair of socks. My next pair of socks is actually some more of my own hand-dyed yarn. I'll show more of this yarn in just a moment, but I started a pair of DK weight socks here And this is called the Autumn Chill colorway. And this is quite a large sock, but this is for my son who has a size 12 foot. So it is a large sock. I have the yarn here, like I say, it's called Autumn Chill, and the coordinating colorway for heels, toes, and cuffs. Because this is DK weight, and knowing that I'm using such a large, or doing such a large foot for this, I will probably end up having to use 2 sets of the DK weight, but it's fun to get this knit up and just demonstrate for people what this yarn looks like, because as I said, I have some of this dyed and it will be going in the shop soon. So just those colors are really, really fun, the way that they're coming out in the hand knit piece. I think that's all the socks. I've been doing a lot of socks, but I love sock knitting. It's so easy to go to, throw it in a bag and take it with me wherever I may be going. And it tends to be not a lot of thinking for me. So I can just get something done quick and don't have to worry about having a pattern in hand, or if I have to set it aside, it's easy to pick it back up. So I do a lot of sock knitting for that reason. But I am also working on some garments. So this first one is actually a crocheted piece. This is also a shop sample because I fell in love with this yarn when I started seeing it online, and this pattern in particular. So the yarn first is Tiramisu by Barocco. And it's a really neat, unique setup as far as yarns go. First of all, it is a wool, acrylic, mohair, and silk combination. I won't quite call it a blend because it's not a single strand. So what they've done is, so many people have started doing patterns or suggesting using yarn where they're holding it double, usually a strand of like a fingering weight with a mohair, or a DK weight with a mohair strand held together with it. Well, what Barocco did is they put it together for you. So if you can see here, this has the mohair strand held together with their main body strand. And it just makes for a really fun project because you're not trying to pull from 2 different balls in order to hold it double. It's already together for you. So I have had a lot of fun working with this. It is so soft. When people come and touch this yarn, everyone's just like, oh, that feels nice. And it does. It feels really nice. Again, just that mohair in there along with the silk. But I'm working on a granny square sweater. So this pattern is the Rena pattern, or Rena. I'm not sure. Excuse me. I'm not sure if you'd say that, Rena or Rena. But I am working on making a medium size, let me get my sewing needle out of there, sweater. So here I've just started putting the granny squares together. So the way that you do it, as you can imagine, is you crochet a bunch of granny squares. So here's a square, and triangles, and here's a triangle, so it's just a half square, right? And then you start to put them together as the pattern shows to create a piece. So you can kind of imagine this is like the front of the bodice, and these pieces create the front part of the sweater. So I'll eventually then have a front, a back, and sleeves, and then you crochet sections in between to connect, and then you crochet a neckband and wrists, or actually I think this pattern you might knit the neck and the wrists and the waist. I have to double check that, but there might be some knitting involved on this crochet pattern. But I love just the subtle differences of color. So there are definite differences, but it's not like a lot of granny square patterns have where each round of the granny square is a different color, and they're very bold, distinct color changes, where this is just because it's a color shifting yarn. The colors change throughout, but they're still held together, I guess, or more blended maybe because of the mohair strand that goes over. So I love how this is turning out. Super excited about this. I'm looking forward to having it in the shop as a sample. And then when I'm done with it in the shop, I look forward to wearing it, which might not be for a couple of years, but at least for now, it's a fun project to work on. And the crocheting, I got all the crocheted squares and triangles done really, really fast because those were, again, not a lot of thinking. It's the same repetitive pattern over and over. But now that I'm at the point where I'm putting them together, I have to be a little bit more intentional about paying attention to what I'm doing and making sure that I'm following the pattern closely. So it's slowed way down, but I will be working on this consistently in the next few weeks and hopefully have that done, I don't know, sometime this early fall time period. I should say that that project is being held in a bag I have from Bags by Awesome Granny. I really enjoy this bag because it's super generous as far as being able to fit everything I need for a sweater's quantity in the bag. It also has this cute ring that I've hung some stitch markers on, and they just match really nicely with the bag, as well as they're kind of a fun fall themed stitch marker set. So next up in my bag by Susan of Delightful Works. I love this bag. It's all the honey and bees and home sweet home. Anyway, it's just a fun bag. But I have a tank top that I'm working on. The yarn that I'm using is Mirasol's Usoon. This is a cotton yarn. It's cotton polyamide blend, so 92% cotton, 8% polyamide. And I really like the construction, so it's a chain construction yarn. You can see there. And I liked the kind of pumpkin orange color of this yarn. So I picked some of this up quite a while ago to make this top for myself. And then I also had purchased the pattern quite a while ago, but I just finally am to the point that I was getting it done. It's a good fall color though, so I don't mind that I hadn't finished this yet because I think that I'll probably use this as a layering piece in the fall here. But this is the Grace's top by Gingy Knits. So at this point, this is going to be kind of an awkward way to show this, but at this point I've gotten the back done. It actually suggests that the front should be done first, but I did my, and the front and the back on this pattern are similar. They match each other, but I chose to do mine a little different. So my back actually goes a little bit longer than what my front does. Here, let's see if I can hold this. I'm gonna hold it a little bit more level if I can. So right now I have finished off the back. The straps are just being held on, they're on hold until I'm ready to do, to join them with the front straps. But then in the front, you can kind of see that my front stops a little bit lower than what the back does. And that's because I wanted the back just a little bit higher up than the front. So now I'm working on getting the front done, and then I will connect the straps in the middle, and then at the end I have to pick up stitches and finish off the neck, around the neck and around the sleeves. The pattern, the best part of the pattern is really at the bottom, which unfortunately until I block this doesn't show it really great, but there is a really pretty lace design at the bottom of this tank top. So again, like I say, I think this will be a great layering piece. I'll probably put this with like a jean jacket over top or a chambray shirt or something along those lines, just as a fall top. So excited to get that one done when I do. It's the yarn, though it's cotton, because of the chain construction, I feel like it gives it a bit more softness than what I'm accustomed to with cottons. So it's a nice soft yarn really, and that little bit of polyamide in there might help that as well. But it's a piece that I'm really looking forward to wearing. All right, now let's look at some acquisitions. I have had, obviously, over the course of a number of months, had opportunity to add some fun things to my own stash. I have been trying to be careful to not go too crazy, just because I know I don't have the time right now to put in a lot of energy into finishing projects of my own. So I'm trying to be very, very careful and regulated on how much I'm bringing in at any given time. But there were a few that I just couldn't say no to, or I just really wanted to see what I thought of them. So first, I already showed you one of the yarns that I got from Tempeh Yarn in Arizona. It's a fun yarn that I'm enjoying working with on that crochet shawl. But the other thing that I purchased for myself was some of their 100% merino wool, one of their fiber braids. So again, this is from their own hand-dyed, Dylicious, in-shop dyed fiber. And I just really enjoyed these colors, kind of a rust and fuchsia blend. So I think that will be a lot of fun to spin when I get an opportunity to spin. I have a hand knit sweater in mind that I want to make from my own hand spun yarns at some point. So I'm trying to slowly acquire more and more fibers and yarns from that to be able to put them together into my own hand knit sweater. The other fiber that I acquired was for my birthday. I kind of like to splurge. My birthday's in May. And I kind of like to splurge every now and then to buy something just unique that I know nobody else would know to buy for me in yarn and fiber. And so this year I enjoy watching Rena of Pineapple Knits podcast, and I don't think I'd ever purchased any of her fiber or yarn up to this point. So I decided to splurge a little bit and buy some of her fiber this is from her Mystery Fiber Club. So every month she just does where she'll dye a fiber and send it out to her customers unseen. Like, you have no idea what you're going to be getting. As far as, you do get to choose if you prefer natural or if you want the superwash with like a bright color. So I chose the superwash. This is a superwash merino nylon blend. There's about 100 grams in here, but look at these colors. Oh my. Are you seeing a warm theme? I guess my fibers are going warm these days. But it's fun that she stuck the little tea on there. Even though I acquired this in May and it's already September, I haven't even taken that off to consume the tea because I want to just show you guys what I got. And now I'll probably dismantle the bag and make sure to get some tea. But yeah, so fun. Looking forward to spinning that as well. Another acquisition of mine is I found a company, rather I had heard of this company on the I Thought I Knew How podcast with Anne Frost. She likes to travel around and have interviews with various people around the world. She tends to focus a lot of her attention in the Shetland Islands or up in the Scottish region of the world. But she did have an interview at one point with someone from South America, and specifically with a group of people that are working together to make sure that some of the ancestral culture of natural dyeing of their local fibers is continued. And so that company, or one of the companies anyway, that's doing this is Pachinku. And Pachinku is the Quechuan word for little bird, which I thought was kind of cute. So this is all Peruvian, but this is Peruvian baby alpaca. So this is all alpaca yarn, but it is all naturally dyed by the Peruvian ladies. So they acquire the yarn there in Peru. The yarn might be milled. I don't believe it's hand spun, but it is botanically dyed by these Peruvian ladies. And I just really enjoyed this set. It is called Con Amor, with love. And I thought it was super cute. Just fun. Again, warm colors. I'm into the warm colors lately, I guess. But yes, very fun set. So I'm looking forward. I'm kind of thinking this would make an excellent cowl. because of it being the alpaca, it's super soft, the baby alpaca, and I know that it has really good drape. So I think that that would just be a really cute, maybe like a kerchief style cowl. We'll see. Anyway, I look forward to working with this. Again, I didn't want to take it apart just yet so that I could get a chance to show you guys. Let's see, some of the dyes that they use. Well, this is kind of fun. They even put the names of the ladies who dyed it on the ball band. So we have Angela Milo, Santusa Mamani, and Leonarda Mamani. So two of them must be related. And then the dyes that they use are cochineal, chapi, and nogal. And the cochineal comes from abido. Chapi and nogal, I believe, are both from plants. But very, very fun. Another large acquisition I made this summer that I thought I would have already busted into, but I didn't. So now I'm like, okay, I guess I'll save it until Christmas, was I did buy a Christmas in July advent calendar from Annalena of the Anna Knitter podcast. So this came from Germany, which is so fun. It's always fun to get yarn shipped to you from another country, isn't it? So Annalena put together, like I say, an advent set for Christmas in July, and these are all opal minis. So much like my opal socks that I showed you earlier, opal tends to have a self-striping colorway in most of their socks, or most of their yarns. Not always, but most of the time. And Anna put together this really fun package of the opal minis. So I haven't opened them all by any means, but I have kind of peeked ahead at a couple of them just to see, because they're so cute. But like I said, since I haven't taken the time to open these yet, I think now I'm going to save them for Christmas. But you can see this, she did such a great job of packaging. I love her stickers, and then she put a Bible verse related to Christmas on the back of each of the pillow boxes. So there are 24 minis, and then there's one full skein as well, or rather a full ball. It's a ball of yarn. Oh, and a treat, a goodie as well. Anyway, I was just super excited about getting that from her, and yeah, like I said, I kind of thought maybe I would knit that during the summer, but I've been too busy. So this will be a fun treat. I'm going to now set it aside instead for December, and this will be something that I enjoy opening up every day until Christmas. All right, I think, I have one more acquisition that I wanted to be sure to share with you guys. I had seen this book, someone showed this on a podcast that I was watching. I don't remember who showed this. Anyway, I saw this on a podcast. I apologize, whoever showed this and shared it with me, thank you. But this is a Fringe Studio works in progress notebook. So I thought it was super cute. It was from Barnes & Noble. My daughter happened to be ordering some books that she wanted from Barnes & Noble. So since we were putting in an order anyway, I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and get one of those because I just think it's a really great idea. So the book is just very simply laid out. It has a project tracker page that has your start date. It says due date, but for me, that'd probably just be end date. What I'm working on, ideas about the project, tasks related to it, details. Oh, it has the date completed down here, I guess. So maybe this is when you're hoping to have it done, and this is when you actually get it done. And then it has just an empty graph paper page over here, which I thought would be a great place to put additional notes, or even to put a finished object photo on these pages. So I just thought it was a really neat book. I love the rose gold spiral binding on it, and the feel of the book itself is kind of neat. It's just a faux leather feel, but it's a really nice little notebook. So I won't start using it immediately just because I have a knitting notebook that I use for knitting and crochet projects, but this was made for me by an Instagram friend, Julie, and she put this fun Cricut, I think it probably a Cricut cut piece on the front of it for me. And then on the inside, it's just lined pages. But I write down, I'm not very consistent with notebook keeping, honestly, but I try to write down when I've started a project, which yarn I used, which needles I used, which pattern it was, which size I worked on, those kinds of things, and try to keep notes, especially if it's a project that I think that I might be repeating at some point, and I want to make sure that I have good information so that I can make any changes. But I still have lots of room in this notebook, so I'll probably continue with this one right now. But I wanted to go ahead and get this one too while I know that they were available, because I could see this being a really great notebook for future projects. Okay, a couple other things that I've added to my own stash. As you can already you saw my Auto Shop to a Yarn Store set. And then I also made dyed a set called State Fair. This set turned out really, really fun. And this happens to be a DK weight sock set. But this set, the Auto Shop to a Yarn Store, and then this set that's sitting over here, this is my Tulip Time set. These are fingering weight minis, 20-gram minis. And all of these sets have been colors that I've dyed specifically for my Patreon supporters. For anyone that's interested, I do have some spots open on my Yarn Fanatics level. At that level, you pay a monthly fee, but you also get, it's like a monthly subscription. So if you pay for the Yarn Fanatics level, then you get one of these really crazy fun sets, whether it's a sock set like this or a mini skein set. And I dye those up monthly, and they go out just to my patrons alone. The only one that I've repeated at all has been exclusive to my shop and patrons. There's some of these colorways that may end up showing up more in my shop, my physical Wyoming Yarn and Fiber shop. Most of them, if I've offered them to Patreons, will never be available online. So if you're ever interested in some of these unique sets, the way to get them is by being a Patreon subscriber. So I do want to say thank you to all my patrons so far that have helped support me and helped to further along this dream of mine of getting my dye studio up and running. The dye studio is still in progress, but it is happening at the new yarn shop. So one portion of the shop is retail, and then another portion is for the dye studio. And it is exciting. I was just talking to my mom today about the progress of that, and it's exciting to consider that I'll be able to have all my dyeing happening in its own space, a space dedicated just to dyeing and keeping things as streamlined as possible. So I'm looking forward to that. But if you are ever interested in having some unique sets of yarn that are only available to my patrons, be sure to check me out on Patreon. Again, the link for that will be in the show notes below. With yarn dyeing being something that we're discussing here, I figured I'd bring a few sets on to the podcast here today to show you some of the projects that I've been working on. I'll pop some photos in of some other things, but I have had a chance to kind of get back into the dye studio a little bit here in my home garage at the moment, and being able to get some things worked on. So one of the sets that I'm super excited about, again, Susan from Delightful Works, sewed up some bags for me. She and I together worked to pick out a fabric that I loved and what I thought would make just an incredible set to dye yarn to match. So this is the She's a Wildflower bag. It says on it, "Life is so beautiful. Stop and smell the flowers. I think she's a wildflower. How does your garden grow? Stay wild at heart." I think those are all the sayings on there, but I just really liked that fabric. All the bright flowers, but then also these moths. I really like the moths where they're just kind of understated, but very much there. Or even these, let's see, this moth right here. I like this guy. Anyway, I really liked the fabric. And so Susan put together beautiful bags for me, as she always does. And she has a pocket on the inside of the bag, and then the drawstring cords are just really solid and stable. She puts a nice interfacing in there so that the bag can stand up on its own. I really love her bags. So when she sent those bags to me, then I dyed up a set of mini skeins. And so I'll pop a picture in here. These are the She's a Wildflower set. So those will be available in my shop this coming Saturday. And I look forward to sharing those with you guys. So let's see, that would be Saturday the 22nd, that those are available in store. Some other yarns that I've been working on as we get into or get closer to the fall days here, it was time to bring back some of my fall colors and bring back some things that kind of inspired by some dyeing that I would have done last year around this time. So this first one is called Fright Night. I had a Fright Night set last year that was similar but not the same. So if you have Fright Night from last year, please know that these are a slightly different colorway. But this is just a really fun, kind of a tonal, semi-tonal gray with lots of pops of color. So purple, oranges, greens, and then of course the coordinate mini. So 120 grams total. This is dyed on my scree sock, and that is a 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. And this is all a product of the US. So I love that part of working with this yarn, as well as the scree sock makes just incredible socks. That's scree is what I used for this sock. And I really love how this sock knits up. It's a little bit of a thicker sock weight yarn, but again, I like having my socks super, I like it having a fabric that I feel like isn't going to fall apart the first couple times I wear it. So I really like how this sock yarn knits up. Also on scree, oh, and I should say, let's see, this one is also available on a DK weight. So in the shop coming up this Saturday, I will have it on fingering weight and DK weight. Also on fingering weight and DK weight is this one. This is Autumn Chill. So this is the one that I showed earlier in the DK weight that I'm working with. And this is the sock yarn at fingering weight. So it would knit up similarly to this, just a finer, this is a finer thread. But again, just a great workhorse of a yarn for socks. And then the last one that I'm going to show on the podcast today is called Cody Rodeo. So this one was a fun one that I dyed up a while back actually, and I'm just now getting to the point of getting it ready to put on the shop or in the shop. But this one is inspired by the fact that Cody has a nightly rodeo all summer long. It starts in, let's see, it starts the beginning of June and it goes until the end of August. So every night in Cody, if you're ever here in the summertime, if you want to go see the rodeo, you can go any night of the regular week, not on weekends unless it's a special event. But yeah, so this is inspired by the Cody Nightly Rodeo. And again, available, this one is only available on my fingering weight scree sock. Other than that, I have some fiber braids that'll be in the shop this weekend. I have some other colors of socks. I have some Christmas is coming back to the shop this fall. I have some other sock sets that I'll be replenishing or restocking, some colorways that were already in the shop that I'll be adding to. I look forward to getting the shop more consistently replenished. As I'm getting more established now with Wyoming Yarn and Fiber, it allows me to focus back on Sweet Mountain Crafts a little bit and to be able to keep both of those entities running at the same time. So I think that's a lot. That's a lot of words for me today all at once. So I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. I look forward to sharing with you guys again, hopefully, like I say, in about a month. If I get to sooner, that's great. But if not, just know that I'm still here. I'm still hanging in there. Be sure to check me out on Sweet Mountain Crafts on Instagram or Sweet Mountain Mohair if you're interested in any of my hand-dyed cinch cord, or Sweet Mountain Fiber for my personal projects. Or now you can find me as well at Wyoming Yarn and Fiber, and specifically my new yarn store. So be sure to check me out in all those places. And in the meantime, I look forward to hearing from you. Be sure to share with me what some of your favorite projects are in the comments, and let me know what you guys are up to as we transition this time of year of our seasons. So thank you again for stopping by. Thanks for hanging in there with me, and enjoy your knitting. Bye-bye.